Let's do some shape fixing on our Alembic file so that we can export yet another Alembic that's fixed and we can render that. While that Alembic is running in the background, it's going to take a while. Let's go ahead and see what you can do to start shape fixing this thing. So let's create a separate geo node. What you want to do is just bring your Alembic in and unpack it. After the unpack node, add a connectivity node. This will add a number on each primitive. Be sure and set it to primitive. On each primitive that is connected to another primitive. If the primitive is not connected, then it will receive a unique and incremented number. So here you can see the value for class, which is the default attribute, means we have 145 unique pieces of geometry. After the connectivity node, add a color node. And be sure and set the class to primitive and the color type to random from attribute. When you do that, an attribute field will turn on, and what you want to do is enter the attribute class in there. Class came from the connectivity node. It's the default attribute that is used to define individual floating pieces of geometry that are not connected. So once you have that, if you take a look at what you've got here in your scene, you've got multicolored pieces of geometry. This will allow you to make a movie where you can assess how much penetration is happening and where you might need to do some shape fixes. So let's go ahead and take a look at the result movie of that. As we let this play, we can see there are several areas where there's major penetrations happening in our sim. This is the previous sim, version 58, that's not blended, so I'm just using this while I'm waiting for the other Alembic to come out. I can solve some of these problems that are not cloak related, like some of these flaps in the boot, the top shirt going through some of the belts after the jump, and whatever other various penetrations that occur along the way. We'll just do a series of soft transforms now that are keyed off and on to fix our penetrations. Let's go ahead and do that. The first thing you want to do is make a play blast of your animation so that you can scrub through it and it has proper frames. And I prefer mplay because it's faster than a movie file and I can scrub back and forth. Now one of the main problems that we have here is right around this frame right here, like 1027 right here, where we can see that leg is showing through the pants, and it's probably because the collision object for the sword was pushing into it. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, for this we would just put a little soft transform right there and rotate the sword out a little bit just to make some room, and we would push in the green body here for the left thigh using a soft transform. I'm just selecting points and I'm keying it over time so that when it can't be seen, I turn off the key. So you can key these values up here on a soft transform. And then after that I moved the shirt in a little bit here to match the spot so it wasn't penetrating the hilt, and this one is an additional position here, so that's pretty easy to do. So the next issue that we ran into was at 1033, and we've got quite a crazy boot going on here, some penetrations there. So same thing, soft transform, you pick a few points. It looks like we got a little fix that we got to make here. Snagging back here that I have never seen before, but it's not caught in camera. So okay, so the first thing I would do is just do a sculpt node. And you want to sculpt off to the side here a little bit. And you want to use a negative value here. So let's scroll down here. We'll do negative 0.01. Something nice and small. Scroll wheel yourself down here a little bit. So that would push it in. What I want to do is pull it out a little bit. So let's get rid of the negative and we'll make it a positive. There we go. And you can right click and convert to smooth. So you can just kind of smooth a little bit here. Smooth your points. And now you've effectively created a shot fixed, sculpt fixed here. So in order to blend that back in, you add a little blend node, blend shape, a blend shape node, and you put the main line in the first input, and then the second one you put in the second one here. And this creates a little slider here that can let you turn it on and turn it off, turn it on and turn it off, and this lets you key it. So I'm just going to leave that on because I doubt that's going to cause any problems. So I'm just going to leave that one on. Any kind of fix that you want to leave on for the duration. And if you want to go back, I have this I got to fix, so I can go back to the sculpt node, pull that out a little bit. There we go, pull that out. Oops, too much. And let's do a little smooth. And then I've successfully added to the sculpt node here. Alright, the next one was also the boot lower, so we had like a 1038 issue here, and that one was fixed. So at 1038 we had a little bit of penetration down here at the bottom of the boot on the right side. So I'm sorry, on the left side. And that was fixed with just a little soft transform. I probably just pushed this back a little bit. So let's just see what we have here. Yeah, just push back the bottom part of the boot here. Same thing. I think I just noticed that it was doing the same thing. Yeah. So I just shifted that one as well. Okay, then there was a series of sculpt fixes at 1054. 1054 is that major frame where everything kind of collapses because of the hurdle jump right here on the right side. So we have some issues here. We have the flap and we have the sword going into the knee, all kinds of problems there. So as we hit 1054, first I pushed in a lot of the green body parts. You can see here with the sculpt. Turn that in, just push that in. And then I added a few more. There's a few other areas where I just left this on all the way to the end in case there were more penetrations. This is just a blend shape all the way to the very end of the knee being sculpted back inside of the pants. Last but not least, the biggest major problem we had was this flap. It turns out you can just use a soft transform. I just want to show you how I selected. So I selected all the points that were in the flap. And I didn't do it maybe at this frame, but I did it at another frame. And then I just keyed the translate out in Z, kind of pulling it toward the camera a little bit. So I'm going to hit escape, keep that piece. So that's all I did here. So if you toggle this back and forth, you would be able to see the effect. So in the end, we have pretty decent results. Let me go ahead and show you those results now. Okay, let's take a look at our results here. Hopefully nothing major stands out. And this is the final blended sim where I blended in the front and back of Cache 44. Okay, it looks pretty good. So last but not least, let's go ahead and export this out as an Alembic. I use the same settings as I did in the previous video. Set the frame range. I picked a file name. This is going to be version 59 shapefixed. For hierarchy, you want to turn on build hierarchy from attribute path. And under the geometry tab, you want to merge with parent transform and turn off instancing when possible. And then go ahead and let's export ourselves out. I'm going to save, and we'll export our final Alembic that we're going to render.